Welcome back, everybody. This is Inside Man United. My name is Rowan Brennan, and yes, the international football is nearly over. Some of you might be sad about that and love those international games. As an Irishman, international football isn't the most exciting time in Irish sports history at the moment. So, yeah, looking forward to the club football getting back, and we have a lot of informed players that have been doing well for their countries, but a fairly important run of games and very tight fixture list ahead for Manchester United, with the most kind of prominent game coming up now against Sheffield United at 8 o'clock, a weird kickoff time on Saturday. So we are going to look ahead to that game. How should United be lining up given the form of both teams? Who's available? What games are coming up afterwards? And how we need to maybe approach this game with a little bit of intelligence. So let's get into it. So Inside Man United has been working with Sports Dog Analysis recently. So in their preview analysis, please check them out on Substack. Link is in the description. So please check them out. Some really useful data and statistics, particularly if you're looking to have a flutter on the game. There's some interesting data there in terms of goals conceded, win percentages, goal scores, that kind of stuff. So some pretty interesting stuff there. So there is a good amount of analysis here on kind of the history of the games between United and Sheffield. We've got a pretty good win rate against them, but again, you really do need to take current form into consideration here. I don't think the historical data of what United have been like in the past, despite what we've been like over the last 10 years, our current form is pretty much all over the place. They do go into distractions off the pitch, talking about the recent takeover. This can't be beneficial for the club. It's going to be a big distraction for everyone. We think that the guys should just be able to focus on football, but of course, you're not going to be able to just focus on football. This stuff is absolutely mad. They did speak to me about the takeover. I kind of had some insights into that. You can check out my podcast as well. There's a link to it in this article. But I just said a year ago, would you have taken a 25% kind of bid from Sir Jim Ratcliffe to try and take some control or get involved with the Glazers, just to try and, remove their sole ownership or sole influence on the club? And I think the answer is yes, since we've had the Sheikh come in and kind of shake that's a really bad pun. And show the kind of the benefits of what he could bring. We are seeing this as a bit of a disappointment, and it's kind of the fallacy of choice. The more options I have, the less likely you're going to be happy with the option you end up. But they also spoke to Jack United 48. His link here is in the description, and he seems to think that this is the first stage and maybe something that's going to take 5 to 6 years. There is talk about this being the first step in a plan for a full takeover by 2026. But again, let's kind of just get into the match here. We can see here that Sheffield have only got 1 point in their last 5. We do have 2 wins in our last 3, but we also only have 2 wins in our last 5 as well. So we are starting to pick up a little bit of form. We did lose against Brighton and Arsenal, 2 strong teams, 3-1 both games, but we're not scoring a lot at the moment, and we really do need to get our shooting boots on. So some good information here about kind of how much Sheffield United are scoring. They're pretty low. They're at the bottom of the table. This is a pretty good game for United to want to have to play before a very important European fixture, and of course Man City coming up after that as well. So please check out this page. There's some really good information here, the metrics, and Sports Dog Analysis does this for every Premier League game. So even if you're not a United fan, if you're just into the Premiership in general, these guys have got some fantastic articles on both teams leading up to the games and all the important information and metrics that you need coming into it. Head-to-head information here. We do have a pretty good win rate, but again, current form is not great. Some kind of historical data on our most recent meetings. But kind of let's get into some kind of predictions here. So yeah, fan analysis. WJ United. Again, feel free to follow him on Twitter. He was asked what do you think that his thoughts on the fixture were. Sitting dead last with only 1 point, this should be a comfortable win for United, but Wolves should have been a comfortable win. Forest should have been a comfortable win. I do agree with WJ here, but United are capable of anything these days. So we're facing the leakiest defense in the league. So if ever there was an opportunity to start banging in some goals and get some confidence up, Rashford, of course, recently got a great goal for England. Højlund has scored for Denmark. Eriksen hasn't been playing too well. Of course, Bruno got a goal and a couple of assists and has been doing very well, as he always has been for Portugal recently. So our key goal getters are in form for their country, so there's no reason we can't kind of bring that into this game. So he sees nothing less than United win on Saturday evening. We've got some players coming back from injury. When asked who his player he's expecting a big performance from, of course, it's going to be our captain, Bruno Fernandes. Hasn't been doing so well for United so far. Is that a Ten Hag thing? He seems to be doing pretty well for Portugal. I mean, pretty consistently as well. It's not even peaks and troughs. So why he's not able to replicate that at United, who knows? Does he just not have the players around him, or the tactics not right? Is it an Indian curse? Who knows? But some great information here. So please check out Sports Dog Analysis. Link is in the description. And yeah, we're very, very happy to be working with them. And yeah, subscribe to their page, onto their Twitter as well, and see what they have to say. So an important must-win game for United. I think every game is a must-win game for United, especially now. But it really is time for United to get their season back on track, with the Champions League precariously still within our fingertips, with a very important game coming up against Copenhagen 3 days after this game. We need to approach this obviously with the intention of winning, but trying to manage injuries and trying to make sure that we have the best possible 11 available for the match against Copenhagen as well. And of course, we've got Manchester City after that. So it's important that we go into that game with some confidence, with 2 wins under our belt, and try and rediscover a little bit of form. Because if we go against Manchester City with the way we currently are playing, and if we continue this kind of downward trend against Sheffield United and then Copenhagen, I think we could have a repeat of an absolute spanking like we got last year, maybe even the likes of which that we got from Liverpool. So it's very important that we get ourselves back on the rails. So in terms of form, United do have 2 wins in their last 3, but they also only have 2 wins in their last 5. Of course, those other 2 games were against Brighton and Arsenal, 2 very informed, very good teams, and we just couldn't get it done against them. But we do have 2 wins in our last 3 against Burnley, and we lost against Palace, and then most recently, who was our last win again? Who was our last win against? How can I forget this? Brentford, of course. So yeah, 2-1 against Brentford, and yeah, it's something we need to correct. I mean, obviously we had the McTominay 2 goals in the last minute, so our form wasn't great against Brentford. We escaped against Brentford. It was very, very lucky that we got that result, and we had to rely on a player who's basically on the fringes, is not being relied upon, is not being seen as the future of the club by Erik Ten Hag, has to come on and bail us out, not only with an injury time equaliser to try and rescue some sort of pride and a point from the game, but got us a winner. So Ten Hag's regulars aren't really doing it. We've seen James Garner, who was sold last year this summer. Was it last year? It was. By Ten Hag, and has been playing very, very well for Everton. So a lot of United fans very pissed off, including myself, that Garner was gotten rid of, especially when you see what's come in and how they've fared. The likes of Mason Mount and, McTominay still there. I'd have sold McTominay and kept Garner, if I'm being completely honest. So our form coming into this game isn't great. However, our big hitters have been doing reasonably well on the international stage. Marcus Rashford got a great goal. Jude Bellingham's set him up wonderfully. He came in off the left, very reminiscent of last season. Smashed the ball into the top right corner. It was a very, very well taken goal, and Rashford doing what Rashford does. I don't think he had done a huge amount either side of the goal, but it was a pretty convincing win for England, and Marcus Rashford did what he was there to do, which was to come in from the left-hand side and score a goal. So very well done him, and hopefully he can bring that kind of form and confidence and kick on now, and hopefully get a couple of goals against Sheffield. Bruno Fernandes, who has not been playing that well for United. He's been certainly mucking in and kind of trying to lead by example with his work rate and his effort, and trying to cover every blade of grass. But he's there to score goals and set them up, but he hasn't been doing either a whole lot in the last couple of years for United. Now, is that a tactical thing? Is it because of the personnel around him? Are people just not able to finish what he's being able to put on the plate? It's hard to know, because he's doing it for Portugal. He's got 20 goal involvements in his last 16 games. He's got 11 goals and 9 assists. In his last game, he got a goal and 2 assists. He got man of the match, beating Ronaldo, who got 2 goals himself. So Bruno is very much a man in form, and he's doing it for Portugal very, very consistently. So we have to kind of ask ourselves why he's not doing it. And it's not as if he's just not doing it in the big games. He's not doing it really in many games. Of course, he got that great goal against Burnley. Fantastic. But we need to see this more regularly. A great ball by Johnny Evans across the pitch, and he stuck it very well with some beautiful technique. But we need these big hitters to come in. Højlund with Denmark with a lucky escape against San Marino, 2-1, which is an abhorrent result for the Danes against San Marino, who are 207th out of 207 countries. Could you believe, in the world rankings? So Denmark really should be able to put San Marino to the sword, and needed a kind of a late goal to rescue them. I believe Højlund scored in that game as well. So our big hitters are doing it on the international stage, and we need to hope that they can do that once again. In terms of injuries, United are contending with a lot of injuries. However, we've still got some players we think can come back. To start with the outs, Sofyan Amrabat, who had received an injury on international duty, has missed the last couple of his games, both a friendly and a qualifier, and he missed both of them. So Sofyan Amrabat looking unlikely to appear in the game against Sheffield United. If anything, even if he was close, I don't think he's going to be risked in what is the easiest of our next 3 fixtures. And I don't think, if there's any doubts over his fitness, I don't think he's going to be brought in. Raphael Varane, of course, coming back from injury, and I think this game is perfect for him to come back and try and get some fitness in preparation for the Copenhagen and City games. If anything, just to give him 45 minutes, just to kind of ease everything down, help us play out from the back if and when we need to. Try and get settled. If we can get an early lead, take him off after 45 or 60 minutes and bring one of the other defenders on, maybe Harry Maguire, Johnny Evans, something like that. But yeah, Raphael Varane, a welcome return to fitness for him, and hopefully we get to see him either play the first 45 or the last 45. I would start him just to get some minutes under his belt, try and get a foothold in the game, and then take things from there. Serge Reguilon, he looks to be, or Reguilon, I always do that. Or Reguilon looks to be back fit as well, given the lack of options that we have, either just across the defensive line in general, and especially at the left-back position. Now with Sofyan Amrabat being injured, who was deputising in his absence, I think it's pretty clear that Reguilon should probably be getting a start as well. In terms of our defense, I mean, it's kind of being picked for us given the lack of personnel that we have. So our form isn't great coming into this. New injuries to take, the likes of Sofyan Amrabat out, but hopefully some players returning as well, and bringing us some much needed defensive reinforcements in those areas. So midfield and defense, we're going to have to shuffle things around a bit. So with all that being said, what would be my starting 11? This isn't what I think Ten Hag is going to do. This is what my starting 11 would be, given what we have at our disposal, but I am certainly hoping that this is what Erik Ten Hag will do. In goal, Andre Onana. Of course, the much maligned goalkeeper has been struggling for form and confidence, but the last thing you can do with a goalkeeper is drop him. It's not like an outfield player where, we're just saving their fitness, we're saving them for another game. It's squad rotation. We have to go. Goalkeeper is a very unique position. When you have the goalkeeper spot, it's yours. You might get dropped for a cup game just to give someone else a run out, give you a bit of a rest, etc., etc. But if you're the starting goalkeeper, you're expected to start every single game. Outfield players, not so much. Goalkeepers, yes. If you're dropped, it means the manager's lost faith in you, and the other guy's got a chance to come in and take that number 1 spot. That doesn't usually work out too well. We've seen many keepers. We've seen it with Sanchez at Brighton. We've now seen it at Ramsdale at Arsenal. We've seen it across the board with United, whether it was De Gea, Dean Henderson. Remember Roy Carroll and Tim Howard? We've seen it with Benjamin Mendy, Aretha Balaga. We've seen it with countless goalkeepers at many clubs across the years. If you get dropped, it's not looking good for you, and those keepers usually end up out of the club. So it's not going to be a good look for Onana. It's not going to be a good look for Ten Hag. Onana is his man. We spent a lot of money. We let a 12-year veteran Golden Glove winner. I agree that De Gea should have been gotten rid of. He was becoming too much of a liability, despite how good his performances could be. They weren't consistent, and he wasn't reliable, and he was letting in very simple goals, much like Onana has been so far. So let's stop the cries for De Gea to come back. It's kind of pathetic. So we need to get Onana back into some sort of confidence. So Andre Onana to start. At left back, Sergio Reguilon. I think it's clear if he has any sort of fitness, we need to bring him in, and if we need to take him off at half time, if he starts to feel a niggle, we can move someone else into that left back spot, probably Diogo Dalot. And having said that, Diogo Dalot has to start at right back for us at the moment, just because that's where he plays, and that's what we need to do. No Aaron Wan-Bissaka just yet to come in and fill in. In the centre-half positions, it has to be Lindelof and Varane, at least, to start the game. But at least we can rely on Johnny Evans and Harry Maguire to come in and give either of those players a rest, or to come in should, any precautions need to be taken. So, Onana in goal, Reguilon at left back, Dalot at right back, with Varane and Lindelof in the middle. With Sofian Amrabat being unavailable, it looks like, in the midfield area, and with Casemiro being a bit of a worry, but then being seen train with the Brazilian team again, I think it's safe to say Casemiro has to come in and anchor that midfield, especially with Amrabat missing. I was actually going to suggest, before Sofian Amrabat got injured, that Casemiro be given a bit of a break, be given a rest. I think it's important that we give him some time off, and just keep him wrapped up, particularly in a game like Sheffield United where they don't have a lot going forward. I was going to start Sofian Amrabat with two other midfielders in there, and just leave Casemiro on the bench, or just leave him at home altogether. But with Amrabat out, it looks like we need to bring Casemiro back in. Bruno, he seems to be in form. I would actually keep him on the bench, to be honest, but he does seem to kick off. He does want to play every game. We do need goals. He is in form. We do need to get 3 points under our belt. So I would like to bench him and rest him in preparation for the Copenhagen and City game, but I think he's going to play. So Casemiro, and I think it's going to be Bruno Fernandes in the number 10 position. That spare midfield option, who would I go for? It's basically a flick of a coin for me between Mejbri and McTominay. You could put Mount in there as well, but I just don't like Mount in those middle positions. And plus, I think I would have him out on the right-hand side. So it's a tough one. It really is a tough one to call. Given McTominay's heroics in scoring 2 goals at the end of the last game, and the fact that it's Sheffield United, I think he is deserving of some minutes. So I would put Scott McTominay in there, just because what he did in the last game deserves recognition. Mabry will get his chances. He's young, and he might be able to come on for the second half, maybe get 30 minutes at the end to come in if we need to kind of chase something. But I think McTominay is deserving of some minutes after his heroics in the last game. So, yeah, I would have McTominay, Casemiro, and Bruno Fernandes in the middle of the pitch. On the front three, Højlund has to start. We just need to get the kid's fitness up, get his confidence up. He's young. He can take it. He can take all these minutes. So I would have Højlund starting up front. Rashford, of course, on the left-hand side. He did score a goal for England. Let's see if he can translate that. We need to give him games to play himself into form, or to play himself out of the team. And if he can't do it against Sheffield United, then it's going to give us some opportunities to maybe rethink what the starting lineup is going to be against Copenhagen, and certainly against Manchester City. That just leaves the right-hand spot. Now, who do we play there? Is it Garnacho? Is it Mount? If I'm being honest, I would put Garnacho in there. I think Mount should be saved for the Copenhagen and City games. I think Garnacho deserves a start. And I would have Garnacho and Rashford alternating wings. We've seen that happen with Rashford and with Mount. They alternate wings coming in from different sides. We saw Rashford coming in from the right in the last couple of games, and I do like the fact those two players can swap wings, come in, either cut in to use their strong foot if they're on their inverted sides, but I would like to see Garnacho coming in from the right-hand side. He is a right-footed player. I know he's played a lot on the left and he likes to cut in, but he is a right-footed player. So I'd like to see Garnacho. I do think Anthony is going to start there. I think Ten Hag is going to give Anthony minutes in a game where he's going to have an opportunity to go forward a lot more. His defensive duties, which he seems to be good at, that seems to be the strong part of his game. But it will give him more opportunity to get forward and start scoring. So I think Ten Hag is going to start Anthony. I would have Garnacho just because I don't think Anthony's very good. I don't think he's going to work out. I hope he does. I hope he proves us all wrong. I just don't think the kid has got it for the Premier League. It's as simple as that. I think that's a transfer Ten Hag is just going to have to bite the bullet on eventually. So I think Garnacho is far more deserving of minutes than Anthony is at the moment. So Garnacho for me on the right, with Rashford on the left, alternating wings, Højlund up front, Bruno in the 10, Casemiro and McTominay completing the midfield anchor, Reguilon on the left, Dalot on the right, Varane and Lindelof as the centre halves, and one Mr. Andre Onana in goal. So how do I think this game is going to pan out? I think United are going to really try and put Sheffield United to the sword. I think this is a game where we need to build our confidence going into the match against Copenhagen. Scraping a 1-0 win here is not going to cut it. In much the same way as that we had to claw back a win against Wolves, claw back a win against Forest, barely got a win against Burnley, even though we were reasonably dominant. It was still only 1-0, and we had to come back from the death to get a result against Brentford. These are teams that we should easily be dispatching, and we are shitting the bed against every single one of them. We need to turn in a performance where we absolutely chop the head off our opponent. So I think this is the game, and I am hoping for a convincing 2-0. I don't think it's within the realms of reasonable behaviour to think United could score 3 goals or more at the moment, given how we're playing. But given that personnel on the pitch, I think it's perfectly reasonable to think that we should be able to score 2. I want to see us keep a clean sheet. I think we can keep a clean sheet, especially against a Sheffield United team that are completely toothless. So for me, it's going to be a comfortable 2-0 win for United. If we can get more, I would certainly welcome it. But I'm hoping that it's a comfortable win, 2-0, well-taken goals, hopefully one for Højlund, hopefully one for Garnacho or Rashford. I'd like to see Bruno getting the score sheet as well. I think it's important that we get him back into form as well. Players I'd like to see come on. I'd like to see Mount get a few minutes, Mabry get a few minutes, and even Pellistri. If we're 2-0 up, there's 15 minutes left. It'd be nice to see Pellistri get a run out as well. I think he was playing for Uruguay over the international break as well. I think they beat Brazil, actually. So Casemiro against Pellistri there during the international break. So that's it. What do you guys think? What is your prediction for the game? And who do you think the lineup should be? Who should be playing in those forward positions? Who do you think should be playing in midfield? The teams almost picked themselves, but there are certainly some players that are going to be missing out. Anthony, Mount, Mabry, certainly players that could and should be getting into the first 11, but given the games that we have coming up and given what we have to do at the moment, that would be my 11. So what do you guys think? Leave your comments, and as always, if you like this content, if you'd like to support this channel, please hit the like button, please hit subscribe, hit that notification bell as well so you'll get notified whenever I've got new episodes coming out. Thank you very much for joining me. Enjoy the match, 8 o'clock Saturday, Bramall Lane, Sheffield United against Manchester United. We need these 3 points. Come on the Reds. I'll see you on the next one.